Hello, guys. Welcome. My name is Zandra, and I am an alcoholic. I have a God given sobriety date of January 29, 2019. And welcome to all of y'all who are celebrating days, a couple of months, and even years. You know, that is a huge accomplishment and something like people like us just don't do, right? When I start drinking, there's no telling what's going to happen, and I usually end up dead, as most people who don't make it into this room, as it happens for them. So my purpose tonight is to tell you almost started timer. Almost started timer. I told Christina I was gonna do that. It is an honor to be able to do this. Anytime anybody ever asks me to speak, I always say yes. Most important thing I do though before I start to open my mouth is I go ahead and say a prayer with that God of my understanding, because anything that comes out of my mouth that I thought of by myself is probably wrong. That's just what I've learned in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. So I always invite my God in first before I ever start talking. Um, like I said, my purpose tonight is to tell you what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. I share experience, strength, and hope, and I talk to the newcomer, so that way maybe one they can hear something that they need to hear that'll keep them here one more day. That's all we have is one day at a time. Um, so before I start telling you what it was like, my favorite paragraph in the entire book is in the doctor's opinion. Um, it starts with XXVIII, and it's the last paragraph. It says, men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced by alcohol. The sensation is so elusive that while they admit it is injurious, they cannot after a time differentiate the truth from the false. To them, their alcoholic life seems the only normal one. They are restless, irritable, and discontent unless they can again experience the sense of ease and comfort which comes at once by taking a few drinks. Drinks which they see others taking with impunity. After they have succumbed to the desire again, as so many do, and the phenomenon of craving develops, they pass through the well-known stages of a spree, emerging remorsefully with a firm resolution to not drink it again. This is repeated over and over, and unless this person can experience an entire psychic change, there is very little hope of his recovery. I had a sponsor tell me one time that if I can identify with that paragraph, then I have a place here in Alcoholics Anonymous. When I walked in to the rooms, I always say that my sobriety date is God-given, because when I showed up, I didn't want to be sober. I went into a treatment center, and the only problem I had was a cocaine issue. If I could learn how to drink like a normal person and not overdo it, maybe I could get off the coke. That was my plan. That was my purpose, and y'all were supposed to teach me that. Fast forward to a little over almost 3 years. Y'all have yet to teach me that, and today I do not have a desire to pick up a drink or a drug to change the way that I feel. My story is pretty simple. I come from a very high bottom, is what I can tell you. When I started drinking, I was 18 years old. When I found the rooms, I was 22. My drinking started off like anybody else's, or just about anybody else's. I never got the bright light, the heaven, and just the clouds moved and everything was just perfect. But from the day that I started drinking, something happened in me that doesn't happen to a normal person. It tells me in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and it's the fact that I get a craving for more. I remember picking up a drink at 8 years old. We were at a New Year's. My mom left us to go party her night away on New Year's, and the friend whose house she left us at, she had a whole bunch of liquor. So I remember going into that fridge and opening up these little tube shots and taking a sip, and all of a sudden my brain said, "Ooh, I want more of that." And that's just how it was, and that's how I continued to drink. When my first drunk was at 18 years old, and that's what happened. I was at a party celebrating my graduation. I took a little sip of vodka, and before I knew it, I was going. We finished that bottle of vodka, and I said, "Wait, I want more." That was always the answer for me. That was always the way to just kind of feel normal, I guess, in a way. Growing up, I never fit in. I was a person who had many groups of friends, many groups of friends. And what I learned to do from a very young age is I learned to become everybody you needed me to be. Who you needed me to be is who I was going to transform into. And when I got tired of transforming, I would switch off to a new group. And I would just continue to do that. So I never really got an identity. Growing up, I was always made fun of. I'm 110 pounds. Up until the age of 21, I couldn't weigh over 100. I'm 5'2", and in the town that I live in, that's not okay. Most of the women on me, they've got some weight on them. So I was always told to go eat a sandwich, gain some weight, you're anorexic, whatever they could tell me to remind me that I was lower than them, and that's how I always felt. But alcohol did something different for me. It gave me a voice, and that voice worked in the beginning. I could be honest and I could be transparent. I love the 9-step promises, because whenever I read those, that's what I was looking for when I was drinking and drugging. Peace and comfort, serenity, the ability to look the world in the eye, those things. That's all that I was looking for in drinking and drugging. In the beginning, that's what I got. But there towards the end, it wasn't like that anymore. I was telling Christina last night, I remember it was a couple of months before I got sober. My sister we were sitting in the car, and my sister was telling me about how my mom was worried about me because of my drinking. And I told her there was nothing that she needed to worry about, because I had 10 days sober at that time. See, I never counted the amount of days that I drank. I counted the amount of days that I stayed sober, because it had been so important for the last 2 years of my drinking to get sober and stay sober. I told her I had 10 days. I went home that night. I dropped her off, and then I turned around. I went to the bar, and this time it was going to be different. It was always going to be different. I would wake up, after a real bad bender, and I'd say, you know what? I'm getting sober. This time I'm done, and I meant it. I meant it every single time I did. Every single time I woke up. I wasn't going to do this anymore. I'm tired. I can't keep going on this way. But because I don't have any other solution, I'm screwed, on my own power. And it tells me in that book, on my own power, I don't have a defense. My brain will convince me time and time again that this time it'll be different. It'll convince me that this is going to work. This is going to take away the pain, the agony, and the misery. And that's just that isn't what happened, By the time I had been drinking for around 18, probably about 20 years old, I committed my second suicide attempt. My first one was in the 8th grade. I had felt lost. I felt lonely. I didn't feel a part of, and I didn't feel like I needed to be in this world. That was my first suicide attempt. And the big book defines a moderate drinker, a hard drinker, and a real alcoholic. And if a hard drinker has sufficient reason to give it up, they can walk away. That first suicide attempt should have been enough for me to walk away. But because I am a real alcoholic and I have a physical, mental, and spiritual disease, I can't walk away. So after that first one, it got better for a little bit, and then it went back to downhill. And once again, I think by the time I was 21, I had attempted another one. 22 years old, I had just turned 22. I had my second New Year's resolution on January 1st. By this time I had found cocaine, that wonderful little drug that I put in once in my body, and I said I wasn't ever going to pick it up again. I couldn't seem to put it down. But I remember on January 1st of 2019, I said, that's it, I'm done, I'm walking away. I had every reason to stop. I had every reason to not pick up. I was going to school, I was living on my own, I had bills to pay, but that just wasn't the case. My brain convinced me, after a couple of days that one won't hurt. And before I knew it, I was doing the same shit I always do, picking up one and not being able to put it down. January 20th, I went on another bender. I had been sober for a couple of days, and I took off again, and this time it was pretty bad. I remember sitting at that bar top, slamming drink after drink, trying to find some peace. I felt so irritable, restless, and discontent, and it didn't matter how much alcohol I put in my system, nothing was working. I could not get that feeling away. I could not find that peace, ease, and comfort that I was looking for. So I continued to drink that night, and I continued to drug, and something inside of me switched. The flip just switched, and before I knew it, I knew what the solution was. I knew the answer. I was convinced that I was nothing, that I wasn't worth anything, that I was going to be nothing but a drug addict. I was a disappointment to everybody around me. There was no way I could get out of this. So once again, I attempted another suicide. I wasn't successful, obviously. But I went through that, and at this time, my job told me that I was about to be fired because I couldn't put the drugs down. She doesn't care if you're an alcoholic, but she does care if you put cocaine in your body. So after that suicide attempt, when I finally came to, I decided I would go get some help. But I wasn't going to treatment. I checked myself into a psych ward. Most people have to be committed, and I go ahead and voluntarily put myself in there. Um, I went in and they told me that I had a problem, and I told them they were full of shit. See, I've got this disease. It tells me in there that I cannot, after a time, differentiate the truth from the false. Everybody around me can see that I've got an issue, but I cannot see it. Um, I got on the phone while I was in that psych ward, and I called a friend, and she said, you've got a problem. You need to go get help. And I'm not exactly sure what she said that day, but it clicked. I needed to get off the drugs. They told me that I had severe depression disorder, something like that. And I remember sitting there thinking, like, all right, I've got to be on this medication for 10 days. And then you know what? I can drink. But I can only have a few. And that's what it tells me in the book is I have this idea that somehow, someday I'm going to beat this. Even though all the odds are sitting here telling me it's not possible, I'm going to still try it. And that's what I ended up doing. And that was the original plan. But because I got on that phone with her, and because she said something that finally clicked, I said, you know what, I'll go to treatment, and I'm just going to go to get off the cocaine. That's all I'm going to do. So I went into that treatment center, and I was sitting there, and everybody around me saying alcoholic, alcoholic. And of course I can't be different. I need to fit in. I need you to like me. I need you to accept me. So whatever I have to do, I'll do it. And I'll sit here and I'll say alcoholic, but I don't believe it. And I heard everybody's stories, man. Everybody that was in there, they were 30, 40 years old, and I didn't fit in here. There was no way I could have a problem the way you people had a problem. But they gave me a big book, and I go back to that. If you're new in here, I'll reference anything and everything out of that big book, because that is my blueprint. Those are my facts. That is what saved my life to this day, I truly believe. They sat down, they said, read this book, find the similarities, not the differences. I said, okay. I'll skip the doctor's opinion and the Bill's story, even though that's where they told me to start, because I'm an alcoholic. I don't follow suggestions. But I did get into there as a solution and more about alcoholism. And it all clicked. When they described the way that we try to control, when they described the way that I drink, it made sense. This was me. And I wasn't happy about it. When I finally realized that I had the exact same problem you people did, I wasn't happy. I was pissed off at God. I was pissed off at my higher power, because goddamn, one more time you made me different. For so long I have been different. I've been out of place. I have not fit in, and you gave me one more thing that doesn't allow me to fit in with the rest of the world, doesn't allow me to be normal. And that's all I wanted. I just wanted to be normal, you know. And I sat with that for a while, and it wasn't easy, but I kept working through it. They told me that I needed to start working these steps, and I said, okay. They said, I admitted that I was powerless over alcohol, but whenever they talked about unmanageability, I'm sitting in a treatment center saying, where? I don't see it, you know. I cannot, after a time, differentiate the truth from the false. Even though this seems like some serious unmanageability, you've got to point it out to me, because I'm completely confused and lost. I don't know what you're talking about. And so luckily I had some pretty amazing men and women who sat there and could get me to see the reality of things, because I don't know what that looks like. And so they started to take me through these steps. And the purpose of those steps, like I read in the beginning, what I need is an entire psychic change. An entire psychic change. Problem is I can't produce that psychic change on my own. That's why I have 12 steps in a book that tells me how to do it. The first thing I got to do is I got to get in contact with a power greater than myself. And I didn't like that. Y'all talked about God. I automatically associated it with religion. And you can take that shit, shove it up your ass. I don't care. But I had a woman in there who said, you know what? It can be your own conception. And I had a conception, and in the beginning, I used to talk to the trees, because that's how I could communicate with God. I needed something I could physically see and touch. And, I would sit there and I would ask the trees questions, and this was a yes, and this was a no, and this was a bitch, you're crazy. And that's just how it worked, and that's just where I started off, so simple, so small. And today it has grown. It has grown so much. But I started to go through those steps. restore me to sanity. It wasn't until somebody explained what insanity was that I actually got what that meant. Insanity is doing the same damn thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Insanity is just not that. It's sane. The 12 and 12 talks about sane mind and body. I think something like that. Can can he take away this obsession that keeps getting me fucked up? Is the basic way that I was explained. And then we go through 3 and we turn it over. I had to understand what that meant. Apparently, I wasn't in charge anymore. I wasn't the one running the show, and for so long, I thought I did. I thought I had control. Hell, still to this day, I'd still think I have some control. If you've been on here, you hear how I try to run my life, and it ain't always pretty, baby. Um, but it's okay. I'm still human. Um, and go through that 4 step, and I put everything on there, the nitty gritty, and then I turn around and I talk to somebody else about it. Because what I need to look at, and the most important thing, are these character defects. See, what these character defects do is, when I'm sitting with them for too long, they make me irritable, restless, and discontent. And if I'm not doing anything about that, the book guarantees that I will pick up a drink again. I will get messed up. I'm an alcoholic. That's what I do. And I keep going through these steps, and I turn over these character defects to a power greater than myself. Because the crazy thing about this is I can't seem to fix me by myself, right? I know right from wrong. I know that this is what you do and this is what you don't do. But for some reason, I can't stop doing the things that I want to do, right? I'm always sitting here. They used to tell me, do the next right thing. And I had to turn around and ask, well, what does that look like? What does that even mean? Because see, what I'm going to always do is I'm going to try to go back I'm going to try to do the thing that gets me closer to the thing that I think I want, you know? And so I'm having to constantly turn over these character defects to a power greater than myself. And then I get into 8 and 9 and I go and I clean up all that baggage, because although I'm an alcoholic and yes, I have a disease and everything, it doesn't make it okay to just sit here and put everything underneath the rug and pretend like it doesn't exist. I get to sit there and I get to finally, for once, I get to own up to all of the bullshit I did to everybody else around me. And before I know it, I can look the world in the eye and I am not ashamed, you know? And then I go through 10 and 11, and those are my 2 favorite steps. What I've learned in Alcoholics Anonymous is that it's okay to be human. See, I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to go through these steps and I'm not going to be clean. I'm not going to be a white blanket of snow, you know? I'm going to be able to act human. I'm going to be able to make mistakes. I'm going to be able to do things that people are going to turn around and look and say, bitch, are you still sober? You know? And I'm going to also be able to laugh about that, go back, clean it up if I've caused any harm to anybody else. And then 12, the most important one, I think, of all the 12 steps besides one, is going out and carrying this message to the next person. If you're new in here, I know exactly what you're feeling and I know exactly what you're going through. That's a dark place to be. I remember drinking one day just because I needed to feel something. Was walking around like a zombie, feeling no emotion, no happiness, no sadness, no anger, and I needed something to feel human. I was walking around like a zombie in a human body, and that's just what it was. I felt lonely. I felt afraid. And I did not think that this was possible. I saw all of y'all getting sober, saying long-term, y'all had long-term sobriety, but I knew I couldn't make it past those 3 months. I knew that I couldn't do this. There was no way. I was different. What Alcoholics Anonymous has showed me is that it's possible. They told me when I came in here, they said, if you're new in here, and we don't like to hear this, and it ain't a favorite saying, but they said, if you're new in here, sit all the way down, take the cotton out your ears, put it in your mouth, shut up and listen. That's just how we do things in Texas, and that was a big burst to my ego, but it saved my life, because every time the lady who said that was in a room, I shut up, I listened, and I learned, and I got to examine this book and understand this book in a different way, so that when I go out and I carry the message to the next alcoholic, they understand, they get it, they can relate to me, you know? And so what it's like now, I say, Alcoholics Anonymous has done something absolutely amazing to me. I've been looking at pictures and videos, and there's this genuine smile and this genuine happiness that I've never experienced before. when I look in the mirror, I can honestly say I like who I was. So when I walked in here, I was absolutely disgusted with who I was. You know, I went from Zandra to Z because I thought if I changed my name, I would change the person. I was absolutely humiliated with the person that I had become. And today I don't have that same feeling. Today I can sit here and I can dance and I can sing and I can act absolutely batshit crazy. I can come into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous and I can tell you how I totally screwed up my day and how I probably owe some amends. And then I can laugh about it and I can ask somebody else, how would I approach this? I do have a sponsor, but she likes to go to sleep at about 10 p.m. and I like to be up until about 6 a.m. My day lasts a little bit longer, so when I'm making my mistakes, it's kind of late at night. Um, so yeah, the person I call right here is Christina, and that's a person who sits there and she is one who helps me and works me, gets me through all of those things that sometimes my sponsor isn't available for. You know, um, today I don't have to run. Today I don't have to escape. I'm on vacation right now and I'm excited to go home. I was thinking about it yesterday. Today I live a life that I don't need to escape from. It has become so beautiful, so amazing. I have true, genuine friendships, people who aren't in my life to sit here, use and abuse me, to sit here, belittle me right behind my back because I acted like a human being, you know. Um, the gifts that I get in this program are absolutely amazing. I don't know what they're going to look like for you, but they keep me here. I know one thing for a fact is I cannot stay sober on my own. I always like to say this, and I will continue to say this. I need you 103 people more than you will ever need me. On my own, I am 100% fucked. I will get fucked up. But with y'all, I actually have a fighting chance. So with that, I will go ahead and pass. Thank you.